Go. So, welcome to you all. I'm so thrilled to have you today. If I have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, I am Mindy Stern, and I am honored to be the host of the Accelerator Career Group for over 5 years. If this is your first time in an Accelerator call with me, just put the number 1 in the chat so we can welcome you properly. I welcome Alan and Tina and Jillian and Steve. Welcome. And Tom Wells, welcome. I didn't know this was your first time. Lenice and Russ, welcome. Brent, welcome. Amal, welcome. Casey, Latha, welcome to all of you. I think you're going to have a fabulous time here. Greg Judson wrote the word number 1. Beautiful. Amal, yes, I see you. Excellent. And I am so excited to get today started. Just to give you a little background, we started the Accelerator Group in 2020 to provide job seekers with a community. And that community has grown from 6 people to almost 800 people now. And I have been honored over the past almost 6 years. We're celebrating 6 years in May, to help people with their LinkedIn profiles, with job search strategies, interview prep, everything that would help a job seeker to fast track their job search. And so that's what I do, and that's what I love to do. But every single month, I host some fabulous presenter to give you some additional knowledge so that you can be up to speed and have an advantage over the people who don't come to these things. Our next free accelerator event is on March 12th. Mark your calendars, because Carrie Bryson, who's with us today, she's a job search expert, is going to share how to create stories that showcase results and get you remembered. The title is From Interview to Offer, the strategy that gets you hired. And we're going to be all about learning how to create those great stories, because stories sell, right? People don't remember facts, they remember stories. And so learning how to tell those stories, we're going to leave that to Carrie on March 12th. The registration is open right now, and so you're welcome to go in and register. And Lori's going to put the link in the chat if she hasn't already. Excellent. For those of you who have been here before, you know that we capture nuggets, golden nuggets. I'm sure that Rick is going to have so many nuggets today for us to learn from. And what I do with those nuggets, you put them in the chat, and then I grab them, and then tomorrow I'm going to create a post with some of the key learnings so that we can share with those who maybe weren't able to join today, or to remember what you really thought was important to you, what was impactful to you. Put all that into the chat so that I can grab that a little bit later and create that wonderful post. And I will also put the replay link there so you can hear it again, because there's going to be a lot of things that you want to listen to again for sure. I see Craig Cunningham just joined us. Beautiful. And Chris, welcome. Welcome to everyone who's here. Brian LeBlanc. I am so excited to introduce Rick Kloete. Now, just so you know, Rick has broken all the records that we ever held. We had over 200 registrations for this event. And let me see, what are we at now? We're at 72 participants. That's pretty good, Rick. We didn't want to break Zoom because I didn't think we were going to get all 200, but you never know. We're at 75 right now, so we should be fine. But anyway, I'm thrilled that Rick has agreed to present to you today, and he's going to give us some of his confessions. We all want to know, what are recruiters really thinking? We have everything. We have the qualifications. We have the perfect resume. We've done everything right, and yet maybe we haven't been selected. Why? What are those recruiters thinking about? So with over 20 years of recruiting experience, Rick has volunteered to share his confessions with us. And we are so excited to welcome him. And so I'm going to switch how do we switch the spotlight over to Rick? Lori, can you help us with that? So Rick can say hello to everyone. Yeah. And get started with his presentation. Rick, I'm sending it over to you.
Very good. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Kloete. I'm the founding president of Kloete Group. My last name is pronounced Kloete. Nobody can spell it or say it. And I have a confession to make to start right off. I have something that a little over 20 years ago that I regret, something I'm not proud of, something that I'm in many ways, I wish nobody even knew about. And you know what it was? I was laid off. And I didn't tell anybody for weeks. So the reason that I'm here today, guys, is I've been in your shoes. I've sat in all three seats at the table. I've been the candidate who suddenly got thrust into a job search unexpectedly. I have been the hiring manager and have hired candidates for leadership positions. And now I find myself in the third seat at the table, which is the recruiter's seat. And I'm sort of the go-between, the liaison, if you will, between the mediator, between hiring managers, business owners, and great professional candidates like you guys. So I get you. I know where you've been. I know what it feels like. And really, I'm so honored to be here, Mindy. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be able to give back, because in my career, there were people who helped me along the way, and I'll never forget those folks. So I just want to start out with asking a couple of simple questions, then I'll get into a little bit of it. But let me tell you what we're going to cover today, okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and then we're going to talk about the top 3 traits that can help you as a candidate stand out. I started to think, I wonder what you guys are going to want to hear from me. So I'm going to give you my top 3 traits. I have a dozen or more, but I'll just give you the top 3. The next thing we'll talk about are what I call the BRFs, the big red flags. What are the things that can put you out of contention very, very quickly? Because I actually believe that it's easier to lose a job than it is to get one. It's easier to get dismissed or eliminated from contention than to get pushed forward, which is what we all want, right? And then I'm going to pull back the curtain. I'm going to let you guys see behind the closed doors, because I know if you're like me, every time I've ever been in an interview, I always leave that interview with the same exact question ringing in my mind. You know what it is? It's, how did I do? What do they think of me? I wonder if I did okay. I wonder if I'm going to get advanced to the next stage, right? I'm going to pull that curtain back a little bit and tell you maybe some of the things that recruiters are thinking and talking about, discussing behind closed doors, but they're not telling you. So I'm going to kind of shed the light on that a little bit. Then we'll do a little summary and do some action items for you guys, as well as give you a couple of great links. So you want to stay to the end. I've got a couple of artifact links that you're definitely going to want. And then we'll talk about takeaways. So first thing I want to ask you guys is, how many of you are either in job transition now or know someone who is? Put that in the chat if you don't mind. You either are in career transition or you know someone who is. Awesome. So I'm in front of the right crowd. This is what they call in the movie Top Gun, a target-rich environment, right? Awesome. Love it. So here's something I want you guys to answer. I just put it in the chat. What's the hardest part of your career transition right now? What would you say is the hardest part of your career transition right now? Let's see what we got here. Okay, getting interviews, not landing interviews, playing the games to achieve interviews. Yeah, a lot of that. Getting found. I like that. Finding the right job. Clarity. Love that. Okay, now I'm going to give you a poll. And I'm going to put it in the chat right here. Have you ever been overlooked despite being qualified? And I want you to vote. 1, yes. 2, absolutely. 3, more than once. And 4, every time. Okay, a lot of 2s, a lot of 3s, more than once. Wow. So it's tough out there. Huh? It's a jungle. It's a jungle out there. Well, guys, here's what I want to tell you. I'm so happy to hear that Mindy has a guest speaker next month talking about stories, because I'm a big believer in stories. In fact, how many of you ever heard of Tom Peters? He wrote, I think, In Pursuit of Wow. He said that he quit giving presentations a long time ago. What he does now, he tells stories, because you can convey a message in a few seconds that a 30-minute presentation can't convey. If you think about some of the top presidents we've had, Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, master storytellers. They used them to inspire us, educate us, encourage us. So the question I have for you is, what kind of story are you telling? Because Tom Peters claims that the person who has the best story wins. So we need to work on our story. Everything's a story. Everything's a signal. And so what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and start sharing, if it's okay, Mindy.
Yeah.
And I am going to give you a little, we're going to go back and forth. We'll talk a little bit about this. Tell me if you guys can see my presentation. Can you see Confessions of an Executive Recruiter?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. So we're going to talk about how to gain an unfair advantage in your job search, guys. And as we just talked about, I've sat in all three seats. I've been the candidate, I've been the hiring manager, and I've been the recruiter. Bottom line, I get you, okay? So Tom Peters says, whoever has the best story wins. He said, I stopped giving presentations a long time ago. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of story are you telling? And there's really nothing more powerful than a good story. I'm part Cherokee Indian. My grandmother's grandmother was Cherokee, and a Native American boy one time went to his grandfather and he said, "Grandfather, what do you think about the condition of the world?" And his grandfather said, "I feel like wolves are fighting in my heart. One of them is full of hate and anger, and the other is full of love and forgiveness and peace." And the little boy said, "Grandfather, which one will win?" To which the grandfather replied, "The one that I feed." I love that story because it conveys a message that what we think about is who we become. And I think as a candidate, who you become as a person is a big part of who you are as a candidate. And being able to tell short stories like that, I would highly recommend, guys, that you have what I call power phrases, 3 to 5 mini stories like that. That took me 30 seconds to tell you that story. You'll remember that though. And the reason you remember that is because we think in pictures. We think in pictures. So we'll do a little exercise. Whatever you do, do not think of a pink elephant. Right now, do not think of the pink elephant with the pink skin and the big floppy African ears and the white tusks that are gleaming. And he opens up with the red tongue and you can see the white teeth. Don't think of the pink elephant. Okay. Now, what did you all do? You all just thought about a pink elephant. Okay. We think in pictures, and I'll give you a little tip. Here's a little hack. Anybody ever lost your keys, lost something, lost your wallet? I'm going to give you a really simple trick on how to never, ever do that again. This is a bonus. This is lanyard. We call it in Louisiana. Okay. Whenever you place your keys or wallet down, whatever it is you lose habitually, just visualize in your mind, wherever you put it, that place is on fire. So I have a little box on a dresser. When I come in the door, there it is. Usually open the box and put it in there, but sometimes I put it somewhere else. I forget. So if I go put it in on a shelf in my closet, in my mind, I go, the shelf is on fire. So later on in the day when I'm going, I'm doing I call it the airport Macarena. Where's my keys? Where's my wallet? Where's my passport? Right? Hey, Macarena. You know what I ask myself? Not where are the keys? I say, what's on fire? And I go, it's the shelf in the closet. Because we think in pictures, and the more vividly you imagine that. So here's my question, you guys. When a hiring manager or a recruiter is thinking of you, what do you want? What image do you want them thinking? What do you want them thinking when your name is mentioned? You have to be memorable, guys. You have to be memorable. Whoever has the best story wins. So let's move on to the next. I don't have a lot of these, but there's a paradox in job transition. And here's what it is. The challenge is we've all been taught from a young child to be humble, not to brag, not to be braggadocious. My parents used to say, children are to be seen and not heard. That's the old thing we heard, right? So we're all taught to be humble and not brag. However, when you're in job transition, guys, the spotlight is being placed on us and we're expected to shine, aren't we? So it's like, what do? I've been taught my whole life to be humble and not to brag. And now somebody's putting a spotlight on me and said, okay, tell us how great you are, Mindy. Come on, show us your stuff, right? The solution, guys, is on the right. You need to make it sound natural, believable. And it needs to be the truth that you believe. So you need to be clear about what tangible value you deliver. It has to be authentic. And if you're authentic, you won't come across as arrogant. Now, I will grant it, guys, there is a very fine line between what I call arrogance and humility, right? You want to talk about how great you are, but you don't want to cross that line. Okay. So how do you do that? Well, I would tell you that you need to be prepared with those stories. You need to be able to deliver them quickly. And what I would tell you is be yourself. In a job transition, you are actually the product. Okay. So the better you know yourself, the better equipped you are to be able to convey that value. So any questions about that so far from the crowd? I know we're going to open it up later, but if anybody has a question right now based on those three things, I'm happy to address that. So let's talk about the top three traits. Okay. The top three traits that make you stand out. And here's what they are. Number one, take notes on this, clarity of impact. Number two, coachability with confidence. And number three, a partnership mindset. So what do those three things entail? Here's what I would tell you. If I break these down, can you see clarity of impact, the top three traits that make candidates stand out? Top candidates can articulate their actual accomplishments, not just the job descriptions, where they worked or the titles they held. They can actually, preferably, demonstrate and articulate quantifiable outcomes, explain the decisions behind why they did what they did, and then connect that to some business value. Not the value that you think is valuable, but what that company, that client company is looking for, right? You want to connect that. And then the clarity that you can demonstrate the value you bring, that's going to build confidence. That's going to build credibility. If you're telling a story about a real life example, that would be one of those power phrases. That's going to build credibility and confidence, not only in the hiring manager, but in the recruiter. And at the end of the day, guys, we want you to win. We're pulling for you. We want you to get the job. We're not here to be an impediment or an obstacle, right? That's one of my first confessions I share with Mindy was that the little dark secret is that we want you to win, because the only way we win is for you to win. The second one is coachability and confidence. And here's what I would tell you about the exceptional candidates that I've advanced in the process. Typically, they are very confident, but not arrogant. And the reason they're confident is they can talk about the results they've delivered. I've seen resumes that talk about what they did, what they did, what they did, what they did. You know what? We don't care what you did. We care about the results you delivered. So if you start each bullet point with the result you delivered, followed by how you did it, and not everything about how you did it, just a little bit, just give me a little bit and tease me, make me want to talk to you. Because remember, the resume, the purpose of a resume is to get an interview, right? So exceptional candidates are confident because they know what they've done. What you want a recruiter and a hiring manager thinking as they go down your resume, as they interview you and screen you, if you begin to talk about results, how you did it, what the business value was, all of a sudden they start thinking, wow, if Kelly could do that for them, I wonder what she could do for me. And as soon as they start thinking that, you've got them in the palm of your hands, because they want to see it. What if we plugged her in our organization? Could she deliver those same results? That's what you want them thinking, guys. Okay. So here's what a good candidate does. They acknowledge mistakes. They describe the lessons that they learned. And finally, they show how the feedback shaped their growth. Look, none of us are a finished product. We're all in progress. We're all learning and growing. If you're not there yet, join the crowd, folks. None of us are done yet. But if you can talk about the mistakes you've made openly and honestly, describe what you learned throughout the process, and then how the feedback you received helped you to grow, that's somebody I want on my team, right? This signals emotional intelligence, which is one of the number one things I look for as a recruiter. It also signifies leadership maturity. Now, let's talk about the third and final item, partnership mindset. What do I mean by that? They treat recruiters as allies, not as a gatekeeper. I used to go in sales. I was in sales for many, many years in sales leadership. And one of the things I always did, I was friendly and nice and kind to everyone I met at the organization I was trying to sell to, because you never know who's talking to who. And besides, it's just a good practice and it's who I am. But if you can communicate openly, ask smart, intelligent questions, and then follow through, right? And set expectations between how soon should I be hearing back? What else would you like me to do after the interview? Right? We're in this together. How can I help you look good to your client? Because at the end of the day, guys, the client hiring company is my client. So the more you're able to make me look good to them, the more apt I am to advance you in the process. Does that make sense? And by the way, recruiters find it hard to advocate for people who aren't collaborative. So the more information you give me, the better I'm equipped. Here's the bottom line. Candidates who win don't try to impress. They aim to be these three things. Number one, clear. It's at the bottom of the slide. Second, self-aware and easy to champion. And that's, my friend, what I call the unfair advantage. If you're super clear about the value you bring, you're self-aware about maybe where you need help in development and growth, and you're not afraid to talk about it, you become easy to champion. Now, does that make sense? Any questions about that? All right, let's move on to the next section, which I call the BRFs, the big red flags. It's much easier to lose a job, guys, than it is to get one. You can build a reputation over years, and Warren Buffett said, and you can lose it in 10 seconds by doing the knuckleheaded thing, right? So what are some of those things you want to avoid? Let's avoid these pitfalls, these landmines. Number one would be arrogance or defensiveness. So I like to say ego is fatal, but confidence is attractive. And how do you have confidence? You need to know the product, which is you. So talking over people, dismissing past teams, refusing to own your mistakes, or you're part of maybe a problem that may have occurred, or explaining every failure away. When you begin to go into explain mode, as soon as you're explaining, you're lost. You've lost, right? Own it. Talk about what you've learned, because low self-awareness is when the problem is always who? Them. It's never me. You know what? We dropped the ball. We missed the mark. But guess what? Here's the lesson we learned. And here's the corrective action we took. And guess what? We turned it around the next quarter. Great. Because folks, there's only two kind of leaders that I hire, that I recommend. Those that have, been in tough times, and those that are going to be in tough times. So we're looking for people who are resilient, resourceful. They're people that have run into problems and overcome them. The next one is the red flag number 2 was what I call lack of preparation. If you come into an interview or a conversation with a recruiter and say, hey, tell me a little bit about the company, you've already lost. You need to know more about the company than I do. You need to know about the role. Now maybe the role needs some explaining, but you want to compare it to what you've done in the past. You also own the story that you're telling everybody. Don't wing it. Be prepared. And trust me, we know when you're prepared and we know when you're not. And I call it PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse. Practice what you're going to say, drill it, rehearse it with someone. Practice it, drill it, rehearse it. Do it over and over and over until I could touch your forehead and you could spit out your 5 power phrases. These are mini micro stories that talk about your skills, your traits, your capabilities in a very conversational way. And the final one, guys, is what I call poor communication or listening. When we go to the list here in a couple of minutes, you're going to find right at the top of the list are items that are related to poor communication or listening. So if you ramble when you answer questions, dodge the question, talk for 30 seconds and never get around to answering the question. In leadership roles, clarity equals trust. The more clear you are about you, your value, your skill set, the results you deliver, and the kind of company you want to be a part of, the kind of organization you want to be a part of, the easier it is for me to trust you and ask my client to trust you. Does that make sense? Right. And if someone has to work hard to understand you or follow your resume, they won't fight for you. Make it easy for us. I love the scene, and anybody watched, was it Jerry Maguire, Cuba Gooding? He's talking to Tom, or no, Tom Cruise is talking to Cuba Gooding. He's like, help me, help you, help me, help you. And he keeps saying it. The way you help me, help you is by being super clear and listen. And when I ask you a question, try to answer that question. Or if you don't know the answer, say, you know what, I'm not sure the best way to answer that, but what I do know or what I do believe in is this. And there you insert one of those power phrases that you already know, right? So let's talk about, let's go back and ask questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because I want to get your feedback. So in terms of clarity of impact, we talked in our last slide. The things that I'm looking for are trust, fit, coachability, and risk. Put in the chat, which one of those do you think is the most difficult for you to convey in an interview? Is it trust? Is it fit? Is it coachability or risk? Which one of these concerns you the most? Or maybe hurts candidates the most?
Looks like mostly risk.
Yeah, risk. Yeah. And by the way, guys, the whole reason that I have a job as a recruiter is because companies know that to make a poor hiring decision is incredibly expensive, incredibly expensive. They don't want, they know that the cost of a poor hire can be 1.5 to 5 times the annual salary of that individual. So we can never, there are no perfect candidates. So if we have any perfect candidates in the crowd today, I'd love you to raise your hand and talk to me because I'd love to meet you. I've never met one in my 20 years of recruiting. And there also are no perfect jobs. So this recruiting business, guys, a lot of it has to do with mitigating risk, lowering the risk, and not even lowering the actual risk. It really could be lowering the perceived risk, right? So let's move on to pulling back the curtain and talk about what's going on behind closed doors. Okay. What are the things that candidates don't hear, but they should and want to hear? And so we're going to go over to the presentation again, and I'll share this with you. What's going on behind closed doors? And I would tell you that it's probably, I'm going to pull back the curtain on 6 things that hiring manager and recruiters discuss post-interview. Okay. The first one is the trust and presence filter. Can we trust this person? Right? That's the first filter. Were they authentic or rehearsed? Did their stories line up with their background and their biography? Right? Skills will get you in the room, but trust decides who moves forward. So how do you build trust? One of the factors is likability. Are you pleasant? Do you smile? Do you have a sense of humor? Do you listen? Do you ask good questions? The second of the 6 would be, would I put them in front of my team? Because remember, guys, if you make me look good to my client and you make it easy to work with, you're clear about your value, you can articulate it, you have executive presence. This is about executive presence, and that's a perception. That could be actual, it could be just perceived. But how did they show up under pressure? We'll talk about that. Did they listen well? Did they communicate with clarity and composure? These are all things every company in every industry looks for these traits in their leadership candidates. And so do I, because I'm working on their behalf. If the answer is I'm not sure, then the momentum dies pretty fast. Let's go to the third element, coachability and cultural fit. How coachable are they? How did the feedback land? Did they get defensive if I ask a second probing question? Again, go back to owning your mistakes and not blaming circumstances. High performers can be trained, guys. We can train skill set. There's a lot of things we can train. Low self-awareness is not something I can typically untrain someone. If someone has a low level of, you may have seen the video I do on my Zoom. It says, if I were to give you a check for $10,000 and the only stipulation on that, Mindy, was that you had to spend it and invest it in your own personal or professional development, how would you invest that money? Well, if you have trouble answering that question, you have low self-awareness, because what I'm really asking you indirectly is, where are you weak? What are your weaknesses? Where do you need to improve, right? So if you have trouble answering that question, well, let's take the other side. If you answer that very quickly and very confidently, green flag, yes, thumbs up. Okay, you're loving it. I'm liking this. I'm getting a good feel, because you're aware of where you're weak. And number two, you're not afraid to tell me. Those are two things that are very high in emotional intelligence. People that struggle with that question are either have one or two issues. Either they don't know where they're weak. Okay, that's a red flag. Or they do know where they're weak, but they're really uncomfortable talking about it. And guys, I'm just going to tell you, I said earlier, in a recruiting environment, they put the spotlight on you and they say, okay, be funny, tell me a joke, tell me a good story, tell us how great you are. However, it's okay to talk about where you've dropped the ball, because we've all dropped the ball. So then the second one is, do they fit how we work? Cultural fit. And culture, I define culture as how we do things around here, right? So it means pace. If they're high paced, high energy, and you're slow as molasses, you're not getting moved to the next step of the process, folks. So you want to be perceptive and learn if their pace is more methodical, strategic, a lot of details, a lot of data, that needs to be your approach. Now, at the end of the day, you need to be yourself. Don't be someone you're not. But decision-making style, how do you make decisions? We'll talk about that. Accountability. Again, ego versus humility. Great candidates will lose roles every day because the style didn't fit, not the skill. If you're in an interview with me, you're competent. You have the background, skills, and experience, education, and the profile, right? You've got the resume to get you in front of me. But you're not going to get to the next stage of the process unless I feel you're a fit with that organization's leadership style. I call it PSS, right? Personality, smile, and style. Personality, style, and smile. Does it fit with how they do things? I hope this is hitting with you guys. So here's the final two questions. What concerns would we have to manage, right? If every candidate has gaps or transitions or comp expectations or leadership styles, style risk, the real question is, are those concerns coachable or are they chronic? Are there patterns that we can perceive, right? And the final one is, would I fight for this candidate? And this is really where the recruiters earn their fee, okay? If a recruiter believes in you and you have to earn that trust and that belief, then they will advocate for you. But if they're lukewarm, they won't, okay? So let's talk about, I'm gonna ask another question. How many of you approach recruiters with a partnership mindset? How many of you do that? And does that make sense? You're collaborating. Some of you say, I may not have the opportunity to do that, right? Yeah. Okay, good. I like that collaboration mindset. Now, let's move on to kind of pulling back the curtain on some of the questions. So I promised to make some confessions, and we're getting short on time, so I want to make some confessions to you guys, okay? These are things what are the executive recruiters really thinking, but they're not telling you? So I've got a little tool, and I'm going to put I'm actually going to put this in the chat, but I don't want you to go to it yet. So I want to show this to you first. Can everybody see what executive recruiters are really thinking? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. So after 20 years in executive search and career coaching, guys, here's what I can tell you. Recruiters are not just evaluating competence. We're assessing risk, reputation, impact, and return on political capital. So, but if you stuck me with the truth serum today and said, Rick, I'm forcing you to tell me what's going on in your head. Imagine if I had a screen above my head while you were being interviewed by me and you could see what I was thinking, right? That I wonder what he thought of me. These are some of the things recruiters think, and I put them in categories for you, okay? So the first one is under communication and executive presence. And just ahead of time, we're not going to get through all these. It's 26 of them, I think. I'll give you the link so you can go back and look at them later. But I'm going to point out a couple of them. We're thinking, please land the plane. right? If you cannot answer concisely, we assume you will over communicate, over explain, and drain executive bandwidth. Clear, direct communications, again, it demonstrates executive maturity. Number two, you didn't actually answer the question. I've had people give me very eloquent responses, and I'm sitting there at the end of it going, but did they really answer the question? Many times they don't. I ask myself, would I follow this person? Right? Competence matters, but followership matters even more. Leadership is influence. The military describes leadership as influence. So we're asking, does this person inspire trust and action? Does the person match the culture power grid, right? Executive presence is contextual. Number five, if you're having trouble on Zoom, if you can't manage Zoom, how are you going to manage digital transformation in an organization, right? So little signals you're sending along the way. Let's talk about market awareness and strategic positioning. We're thinking, I know hundreds of hiring managers. You know one. We see patterns across markets, industries, and levels. So candidates who listen to the market feedback, the difference between me and a hiring manager might fill this position once every 2 or 3 years or 3 to 5 years. I fill that position every month. So who should you develop a better relationship with? Probably the recruiter, because the recruiter, even if you miss out on this particular job, what if you super impressed me in the process? Because at the end of the day, guys, just like the NFL, one person gets the trophy, one team, and everybody else comes in second or third, right? And so I have to make that phone call, which I hate to make. And it is to say you didn't get the job. But if you impressed me, trust me, the next role I'm filling like that, you're going to be the very first phone call I make. So I say play the long game. Take a long view, right? Addition is nice, multiplication is elite. So do you execute tasks or multiply outcomes through people, systems, and strategy? Because guys, that's what a leader does. A leader doesn't do everything themselves, right? Your resume is exhausting. You're not the only candidate. I got a lot of good candidates. So why you, Mindy? Why should I put you forward in the process? What makes you different, memorable? You know what it is? It's the stories you tell. It's the way you made me feel. It's the likability factor. We have internal candidates, by the way. What about motivation, stability? Are you running from pain or running towards purpose? That's one of the things I'm wondering. Are you running from a bad situation that maybe you had a part of and you're not telling me about? Or are you really excited about the role, the culture, the future of this organization? And do you understand where they're headed? Right? Those are all things you can do before the interview. This is one of my pet peeves. And at the end of every interview, what does every recruiter do? So, Mindy, do you have any questions for me? And they go, no, you pretty much covered it all. I'm like, really? There's no way I covered it all. Guys, I could talk to you about this right here for 3 more hours and not be done. If you're the product, you could probably do the same about yourself. But you need to be able to do it in concise, bite-size, consumable portions. What if you can't explain gaps, right? What if the exit story feels edited? It's a lot of jobs in a short window. So regarding number 15 right here, if you've had a number of roles, as long as the transitions are explainable and they make sense, I'm good with them. Okay. Experience, translations, and scalability. So this is where, am I a right fit? Have I worked in organizations this big? Okay. Have you truly led at the level the role demands? Right here. You see that? Did you actually read the job spec? People will ask me, so what does this job entail? I'm like, really? I sent you the job spec. You didn't read it? Okay. That's like in the game of operation, your little operation tool hit the wire and the light went off. That's not good. And many, many more, guys. I love this last one, how to differentiate or value proposition. Again, I don't need every detail. Give me the signal, not the noise. High value communicators understand the difference between comprehensive and overwhelming. Now, this is the final one. I'll end on this one. What makes you meaningfully different? If you sound like every other VP, you'll be priced like that. Commoditization in candidates get commoditized offers. If you want that exceptional offer, then you need to show that you're exceptional. I know Mindy wanted me to end about 15 till, and guys, I have a lot more I could cover, but I will end with something a little little limerick that I like to share, and I'll tell you why I shared it. There once was a very cautious man. He never laughed or cried. He never cared. He never dared. He never dreamt or tried. And one day when he passed away, his insurance was denied. For since he never really lived, they claimed he never died. Okay. And I share that with you guys to say this: go for it, man. Keep chopping wood. Perfect your stories. Ask yourself, what story are you telling? And really what I would tell you in the end, and just to summarize everything, is that if you want to be forwarded in the process, remember, interviews are lost much more than they're won. Perception beats perfection. So the way people perceive you, everything matters. So that perception has to be honed and curated. Listening matters more than talking. Humility and clarity beats charisma. And recruiters never block great candidates. They champion them. So become one. Mindy, I'm open for questions.
Wow. Wow, Rick, so great. We are absolutely going to take questions today. I would ask you, you see how Al has raised his hand and David's raised his hand. They have been here before. They know what to do. If you want to ask Rick a question, please raise your hand, which is the raise hand icon on the very bottom. So you come in order, we know who to call on, okay? It looks like David was, I can't tell if it was David or David. Why don't you go first, and then we'll do Al, okay?
Okay. Rick, you mentioned that you think that interviews are lost a lot more often than they're won. Does that imply that if we get an interview, even a phone screen, and we don't get passed on, it's, how do I want to put this?
And I missed the first
So
part of the
there's
question.
something that I did as opposed to something else?
The first part of your question that I said interviews are what?
Lost more often than they're won.
Oh, yes, yes. So another candidates can lose the ability to get moved to the next level by making some of those mistakes we talked about. And by the way, if you're not getting the first interview, it's on your LinkedIn profile or your resume, or it's in something about your social presence. And Mindy can help you with all of those things. She's fabulous. But guys, trust me, we're checking you out. Yes, I get references before I pass you on, but I'm checking you out anywhere you are on the internet. And there are things you'd be surprised what's out there. You should Google yourself sometimes and find out what's out there, because you may not want some of the things out there that are out there. So yeah, if you're not getting the first interview, David, I would say you need to change something about your social presence, resume, or perhaps LinkedIn profile, or who you're reaching out to.
Or maybe I'm applying after 200 people have already put in their application.
Yeah, and I could talk an hour about how I believe in what's called guerrilla. Every job I've ever gotten, just to encourage you guys, has been better than the one I had before. But I had to go find it. Nobody came and asked me if I wanted to work there. I was recruited away a couple of times, but it usually was because I got referred in by somebody who knew me. They knew the kind of person I was, and they knew I would be an asset to that organization. So never forget those your micro network is what I call it. It's not the big network of recruiters and HR people. It's just people that know you. Who else?
Interesting.
Okay, Al was next, but I don't see his hand anymore. Al, did you disappear?
Non, non. Laissez le
No.
bon temps rouler to a fellow yat.
Très bien. Et
Yeah.
vous? Ça c'est bon. Ça, comment ça va,
We
chef?
speak the same language.
You
In
guys
a lot of
have
ways.
a lot in common.
Was there a question?
No, just I wanted to make that
I'm
comment.
glad you said that, man. Where you at, man? Who that?
I heard you, and it had to be. That's what.
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans originally. Been in Nashville 28 years now, or
Yeah,
29.
me too. I don't want to keep you from answering other questions. Thanks.
Awesome.
I have to connect you guys if you don't know each other. Let's go to Julie. Marcus, I think, was next.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the very succinct, on-point presentation. So, one of the things that I think people who are great storytellers, and there are many great storytellers, and they're great in the interview, but they really don't have the skills to back it up, they will move ahead in the process versus some of the people who really can do the job and may not be able to verbalize the same way that some people have that gift.
Julie, you're spot on. No doubt about that. I actually, the biggest hiring mistake I ever made in my life was someone who killed the interview. Killed the interview. I hired her, and it was a disaster. Another story for another cup of coffee. What I learned was people who are really good at their job, they don't interview for a job every day. That's not what they do every day. So that's where I go to the indirect, talk to people who've worked for them. One of the things I would highly recommend, Julie, is that, and I love your name, my sister's name, Julie, is get recommendations on LinkedIn. Have other people speak for you. Have them tell the stories so that you don't even have to say a word. If I look at your interview, I've told this to other people, and Mindy knows, I go right to the bottom and look at your volunteer activities, your certifications, your extracurricular activities. I look at your skills and endorsements, and I always look at the top 2 or 3 recommendations, particularly if it's in the field we're looking to recruit you for. And if you get glowing recommendations and you get like say 15 or 20 or 30 of them, that says something. If you have none, that also says something. That's a different signal, right? It may not be
I don't know if it's a different signal. I think some people still have a reluctance to ask, and they have a reluctance to put things on LinkedIn.
I got that. And particularly if you have a job, but if you're in job transition, you want to tell everybody. My confession at the beginning was I didn't tell anybody for weeks because I was
Many
ashamed.
people don't.
I didn't know what to say. I was embarrassed, right? It never happened to me before. But the next time I was in transition, I told everybody, because the more people knew, the more chances I had of getting that next new job I wanted. And then I had choices. I went from no job, scared, depressed, and anxious to, oh my God, I got 3 job offers. Which one am I going to pick? I think Lance is next.
I think Lance is next. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Rick. Great presentation. Thanks so much. You and I have a familiar territory because we've both had corporate jobs and been recruiters. I saw something interesting from a group of recruiters recently about AI and how you know that you can take your resume and the job description, put them side by side, and then have the AI combine the resume so it's tweaked specifically for that role. However, I've got a friend who's a tech recruiter. She said, if the candidate's not careful, the AI will hallucinate and actually feed stuff into the resume that's not even true.
Yes. So and that's why, let me just tell you, for Intune recruiters like me who know that, and Lance, you're 100% correct. That's where I ask the follow-up questions. So when someone says they can do this, I go, can you give me an example? Can you tell me more? Can you elaborate? What were the 3 learnings that took place? And as soon as you ask that second or third follow-up question and they get the deer in the headlights look, you know, it's, we've smoked out a hallucination.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing now, you know, colleges are having to go through this. A lot of even managers where their reports are coming in saying, here's our marketing plan. And I was talking to a senior marketer a few weeks back, and she said, I've got 3 younger people on the team, and all they've gone is to, you know, an LLM and posted the problem. And then they've come back and said, here are the 3 scenarios. And so I pushed her. I said, you know, go back to the LLM and ask it, what are the 5 failures that could happen if we proceed on this course? Now you're using the tools in a problem-solving skill, but you know, it's impacting your business mind and everyone's right now.
So Lance, the best response to that I would say is be you, because if they hire you, they're going to get you, not me. That's why I never tell candidates what to say in an interview. I want them to be themselves. Right. That's who they're going to get. But also I'm an advocate for AI, but I also think you need to be yourself, read it, make sure nothing is out there that's fake or false, because you will get caught and it's worse later. I've seen college football coaches fired because they faked something on their resume and they were making millions. So it's much worse later.
Thank you,
Adrian.
Lance. We want to keep going. Adrian and then Ganesh and then Dominic.
Just real quick, every job that I apply for, I do put it through the AI. But here's what I do. I compare it to what I have and did it make it better. But my main question is, I get a lot of recruiters who call me. I have got the skill sets for the job. I make it through all of the interviews and I'm the bridesmaid. How do I overcome that?
Yeah. So again, you remember when we talked about it's not about skills and abilities and experiences. It's about how you're perceived. So what I would do, Adrian, this is just my personal opinion, if you don't mind me coaching you, is I would practice my interaction with recruiters with some other people or HR people or somebody who can, and I know you mentioned on one of our other calls that you got that bot call. You know, you need to get past, I would just say as little as I could on that.
Okay.
Don't go into too much depth there, even evaluating that to be good or poor. I would just say perfect your ability to communicate and connect. And the more people you connect with, the more conversations you have.
Right.
Somebody's going to see.
You get better.
Yeah, because you bring up a great point. It's not a win for me unless it's a win for the hiring company and the candidate. I don't want somebody to get hired and quit or get fired because I provide a 1-year guarantee in my recruiting service. So it behooves me. I'm not in the business of doing free searches. So be yourself, practice, drill, rehearse. That would the part of the presentation where I said that. Practice on how you connect. Ganesh?
Yeah, Rick, first of all, great insights, great presentation. So question is, people who are a vice president above, right? How do you find the hidden jobs? Many jobs are not posted, vice president above, right? By the time you see on job board, it's outdated. How do you find those?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I would tell you guys, you've all heard your network is your net worth. And we've all heard build your network before you need it. How many of us do that? Almost none. There are a few superstars who do it. Joe Affelbaum's one. Guys, if you have an industry you love and positions in that industry you seek, develop relationships. And it doesn't even have to be with the hiring manager. Someone in that organization who can be your advocate, be your introduction. Just have a real conversation, because if you go into the ATS jungle and you just online submit a resume, you're going to get like Adrian got, a bot call from some AI interviewing you. But guess what? I actually, this true story, had a very top HR person I knew, and I had a client, and I thought, man, those two folks would really get along. They weren't looking for anybody. This guy was thinking he might be in 6 months. I just introduced him to go have lunch. They didn't even retain me. They didn't retain our firm. I said, you need to talk to this guy. He actually went to lunch with him upon my recommendation. He calls me on the way back to the office and said, Rick, oh my God, I just had lunch with him. And I said, awesome. What do you think? He said, where's this guy been all my life? I need this guy on my team. I go, I know. That's why I've been trying to get you guys together. He goes, look, I don't have a position right now, but nobody knows this. There's a guy leaving in 6 months. Either he's going to leave or we're going to ask him to leave. This guy would be perfect. I do not want to lose him. I'm going to create a position to hire him today. So if you get the right person in front of the right hiring manager or business owner, this one created a brand new position, a special project to put on for 6 months. So they'd be right there in line to hire when the transition happened. And sure enough, he stayed with him for 5 or 6 years, got promoted, went to a bigger job at a bigger company.
And Rick, I know we don't have time. We should come another time to talk about executive compensation. I know that's one of the
yes, compensation. Yes. And once you get the offer, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
RickLinkedIn.com. RickLinkedIn.com. Dominic?
Thank you, Ganesh.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question. I know that the title is confession, right? And then I wanted to ask this anyway. As you said, no one wants to hire somebody who might not be there for a long time. And how do you guys put that into perspective when you hiring somebody whose age is maybe close to retirement, who you might not necessarily know that he is ready to work maybe to 70 or whatever, but you might have concluded, oh, this person might be a little older. He might not be. He might not be staying here for longer than that. How do you talk about that? I asked this question because you were talking about confession, right? And I wanted to.
Yes, no. So that is a topic I would love to spend an hour with Mindy talking about, because it's near and dear to my heart. Guys, ageism is real. I've had client companies say, I'm looking for somebody with a lot of runway. And I'm like, time out. I said, I can be, my notes can be subpoenaed by a court just like yours. I'm working as your agent, but given the choice between someone who's highly qualified, who can deliver outstanding results today, or somebody with a lot of runway, which two would you prefer? And they go, oh, the one who can deliver the results. I go, that's what I thought you said. So let's just take age off the table. I knew that was code for age. They wanted a young person. The truth, guys, if you're entering today, the research is if you enter the workforce today, you're going to have 12 to 14 jobs in your career. Nobody's staying for 10 or 15 years, particularly at a leadership role. The average CIO stays about 3 years. So if you meet somebody and they're in their third year, they're already interviewing for their next job. So, but nobody wants you to start and leave in 6 months. The real answer, Dominic, is this. You come across as a super intelligent guy with a lot of energy. You attack things. I would talk about those things because you don't seem like a guy who's ready to, cash in his chips and sit on the recliner with the remote and watch TV all day. You got stuff, you got fuel in the tank, you got thought, you got intelligence, you got some value to deliver. Talk about that with excitement. And Maya Angelou said it. They may forget what you said or your words you wrote, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And the fact that you asked that very intelligent question already speaks volumes to me. If you were in my candidate pool, you would make the first cut automatically just because you asked an outstanding question. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Wow, Rick, so good. Let's give Rick some love for this fabulous, fabulous presentation. Thank you so much, Rick. I'm giving love. I don't see it. Where do I see the love from everyone?
There it comes. There it comes.
Here it comes. Here we go.
Valentine's week, folks. Don't forget.
So fabulous.
Oh, and Mindy, I put in the chat the 2 links. One was the one I talked about. The other one is a bonus link. If you look in the chat, guys, the first one is the candidate readiness worksheet. I created that personally. It's something you can use to determine if you're ready to go to an interview. Your strengths, your weaknesses, where will you excel and where do you need work? That'll help you do that. The bottom one is the artifact that is the confessions. I probably shouldn't make that public because it's, secret stuff, but you guys, since you showed up and registered, you get the secret stuff.
So just to remind everyone, there may be someone on this Zoom call that does not know, those 3 dots at the very top, it says, if you click on it, it says save chat. And so if you want this chat and all the good stuff that's in there, please save that chat. I do it a number of times during the call, just to make sure. So before I shut everything down, Casey's laughing because he knows some people just don't even know. Thank you. I see you there. Just save the chat so you can refer back to it after. And tomorrow, I want you to be sure that on LinkedIn, you go to see my post at 8 a.m. I always post at 8 a.m. It's going to have a lot of the nuggets that you put in here. It's going to have the replay. Hopefully that's going to come through tonight. And I'm excited that you guys were here today because you experienced a fabulous presentation. Thank you so much, Rick. It was amazing. Chalote, we don't have time for another question. If you could put it into the chat, then maybe we'll have someone get back to you, okay? If that would be great, I would appreciate that. Stay tuned next month, March, is going to be Carrie Bryson's turn to talk about stories. And Rick mentioned stories many times today, but how important they are. So if you want to learn how to create those great stories, definitely join us next month. We have that link in the chat as well. And just make sure you're with us. I am so honored to be here with you guys. I am here to help you. If you need help with your LinkedIn profile, you're not sure if it's getting the right people to see you, drop me a DM. I'm on LinkedIn all day long. So drop me a DM and say, hey, I need a little help. And I'm happy to help you out. Rick, do you have a question?
I have a final comment. For anybody who is the first time seeing Mindy live, she is even better than she seems on this meeting. Go to her LinkedIn profile and look at the very top recommendation. I gave her one yesterday, and I meant every word of it because if you're in need of a career coach, she's done it all. She's you won't be able to throw a curveball at her that she can't catch. Go see Mindy Stern.
So sweet. Thank you, Rick. You're amazing. You know what? And I would recommend that each of you think about someone you can recommend today. It's the nicest thing you can do for someone. So look around the screen and see someone who's gone above and beyond for you and take a moment to recommend them because they will thank you for sure. We all need to be upping our recommendation game because you heard Rick say, the recruiters are looking at our recommendations. If you don't have any, it doesn't look so good. And by the way, if your recommendations are like from 2009, They really don't look good. So take care of that piece. Recommend someone today, and they'll be very grateful to you. Thank you, everyone, for being with us all this time. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. See you around LinkedIn. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Mindy.
Have a good day,
Thanks.
everyone.
Special thanks to Rick. He's so great. Thank you so much, Rick, for being who
Thank
you
you.
are.
Have a great
You're
day.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Great program. Great nuggets. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. My pleasure.
It was a good group. What did the grand total end up being, Mindy?
76 was my
we got close. We got close
76.
to breaking the internet.
Yeah. I had a feeling we'd be good.
Awesome.
So
Thank
that is
you.
really awesome.
Bye-bye, Mindy.
Thank you, Rick. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.